What's up, you guys? Welcome to episode 418 of the Establishment NBA podcast. I'm Mike Gallagher here with Drew Dinkmeyer. He is back, and we're going to talk about some early thoughts from the first week of the NBA season here. Some somewhat surprises on both directions we'll talk about. A lot has changed since Thursday. I think that we thought we learned on Thursday has flipped as a particular Bucks team has fallen apart. Dink, how's it going? How was the first week of the season?
It's good. Yeah, the first week of the season always a bit of a grind, and the first few weeks, honestly, of the season always a bit of a grind to make sure the projection adjustments we made in the off season are working. Make sure we're getting as much bets out as we can as possible in the early season portion when we usually tend to do well, and taking in all the changes and trying to figure out what's real and what's not is always challenging kind of early in the season as well. So feeling good, enjoying the basketball. Nice to have competitive basketball. I think most of the games have been pretty good and entertaining to watch so far, especially some of the high-profile games. So all's good. I'm excited to talk through some of the early season thoughts.
Yeah, let's talk about one team that we thought we'd learned. I talked about this on something I learned with Sam on the Thursday show. It's the Lakers, just unbelievably strong, undefeated, 3-0. There's four undefeated teams. I think three of them, or two of them, were for sure expected in Boston and OKC, and then the Cavs, who we were really talking up. Hashtag our Cavs are back. But the Lakers, I mean, you got to start with Anthony Davis. He's tied with Luka Doncic for the league lead in scoring. He's bringing on the defensive end. His passing's been incredible. The post touches have been really, really good. I mean, he's probably the MVP to this point of the season, and it's a pretty easy case to make. He's just been incredible. So is it just the coaching? Is it he's healthy to start the year? It's obviously a little bit of both. But really, I guess the big question is how much of this is JJ Redick, who's been since day one saying they want this to be Anthony Davis's offense?
Yeah, I think JJ deserves a good bit of the credit in the early part of the season, and I think it's probably more of an indictment on Darvin Ham, just in the way that this team is both competing on both ends of the floor and running a little bit more organized offense right now as it's running through Anthony Davis. It feels a little bit more like each possession is treated with more care than past iterations of the Lakers. It's also early in the season, and maybe there's just more attention to detail early in the season than there is later in the season with the coach's voice. And so we'll see if this holds over the course of the season. But so far, so good for the Lakers. And it's 3 home wins over 3 teams that are very much in competition for them with playoff spots. I'd mentioned in the offseason I had taken Lakers at like plus 130 to miss the playoffs and was feeling pretty good about that. Not feeling as good about that after they handle Minnesota, Phoenix, and Sacramento. Rather handily. The Phoenix game, they were kind of in control most of the game. Phoenix kind of made some runs at them. The Sacramento game, they had to kind of storm back in the second half. But they're able to get easy offense when you have LeBron and Anthony Davis. And then on the defensive end, I think they've been tightened up a little bit there. And the nice thing that we've seen from the Lakers so far is like Rui Hachimura and Austin Reeves are playing really well early in the season. And whether that's a legitimate step forward, I know JJ won't like that question with regards to Rui. He lashed out at a reporter asking what the next step is for Rui, but Rui's played really aggressively and decisively with the basketball so far. And it's a good start. They have a road trip that they're embarking on now, a 5-game road trip that takes them kind of across the country, starting tonight in Phoenix, then going to Cleveland, and then rounding it out with Toronto, Detroit, Memphis, some softer spots before another Western Conference contender. And I think we'll learn more. We'll continue to learn more as the road trip goes. But I think so far they're doing things that make a lot of sense. They're getting the ball in the hands of Anthony Davis offensively. Their next step away is getting the ball to LeBron and Reeves, and they've de-emphasized D'Lo a little bit, which for the man versus machine, the man is looking mighty spry on that one to start the season. The whole question for me with the Lakers is ultimately, will they be able to stay healthy? Because they're so thin. This is the other thing. Gabe Vincent also looks a little healthier to start the season, which has been helpful for them as well. So we know that they're like one injury away from LeBron or AD to the house of cards kind of falling down a little bit. But as long as those two are healthy, this team has upper end Western Conference upside.
Yeah, and with LeBron had obviously the great game against Sacramento, but he's not as aggressive. He's at 8.0 drives per game to start the year. That's been a pretty big trend. And again, a bit of a product of the offense overall. They are playing they're playing slow after makes. Like I think they're 23rd when the other team hasn't made shot, but they're fast on the off a rebound. There's I think sixth fastest offense off a rebound. So they're playing very kind of modernized offense. The 3-point shooting has been kind of fine, but yeah, Reeves has been pretty good on on ball game. We saw that rotation flip where he's tagging away from LeBron, been great. JJ had the quote saying, "Hey, I knew he was good, but not this good."
Right.
After the Suns game when he killed the Suns, I mean, he was so good. We'll see if he could do it again tonight in Phoenix. But yeah, I mean, honestly, like the AD popping off isn't like that big of a surprise. I think, as you hinted at, I think the biggest surprise has been like Rui Hachimura. Like, my God, this guy's playing 37 a night. He's guarding, Damar, Kevin Durant, Julius Randle. He's been like a really big reason why their team has had an impact defensively. And we saw routinely last year, guys like that and perimeter guards would kill them. So yeah, I think Rui gets a lot of credit here. Certainly AD number one, but he's been great. Austin will be a little bit better. And then the other player who I wanted to shout out too, who I was pretty down on and I did not draft at all, was Dalton Connect. Is Dalton Connect coming for D'Lo's minutes? He's been really good. The defense hasn't been very good, but just to give that space with AD and LeBron is like so needed. So yeah, everyone thought Dalton was a massive steal. And I was like, maybe not. He's pretty bad in defense. I didn't like what I saw too much out of him in some leagues, especially early on. But yeah, if he's a thing, with Max Christie being a bit of a letdown, you mentioned Gabe Vincent. They're not like dead, but Dalton Connect being a reliable, calm seventh man potentially could really help because we know LeBron and AD, specifically LeBron, are going to miss games. Any other depth pieces you wanted to kind of hit on here, and thoughts on Dalton for the first 3 games?
Yeah. Well, LeBron says he's not going to miss games. He says the goal is to play
Yep.
too. So we'll see. We'll see on that front. But no, Connect's been really good early on, and I think Connect is the type of guy that is going to look better in more structured offense than you get in like summer league and at times in preseason, just because I think the way that they're trying to groom him and use him is sort of similar to the way that JJ played, right? In terms of like coming off of screens and being able to make impactful decisions there. It's not so much like freelancing, free-forming, one-on-one ISO type stuff. So that, I just don't think the summer league and preseason were like the best looks at how he's going to get used. In terms of coming for D'Angelo Russell's minutes, I think he's a threat to eat into D'Angelo Russell's minutes. I don't think he's ever going to get to like 28 to 30 minutes a night type thing, unless like until we get to injuries and whatnot. I think there are like very big limitations there. And D'Lo, while not playing well early in the season, he does hold a role just in terms of like, I think when you're seeing like LeBron driving less, I think there's a very conscious effort. You're seeing a lot of weight being put on Anthony Davis offensively. I think there's a very conscious effort to, we need to manage the workload for LeBron during the course of the season. And JJ talked about this in the offseason. Like, we need to find a way to manage these guys' workload. Maybe it's missing games. Maybe it's playing less minutes per game. Maybe it's having other guys lead the ball handling, the usage, the drives, and putting it on them and letting LeBron kind of work his way through the season. I think that could be part of it as well. And Rui, I think one of the biggest things about Rui's strong play early in the season is the minutes, as you alluded to. I mean, playing 36, 37, that just keeps them from having to dip into the Max Christies, the Dalton Connects, the guys who are a little bit more one-way players. Like, the thing that they have right now going for them is Reeves is fair. Like, Reeves can get hunted, but he's like a fairly decent team defender. LeBron and AD are two-way players, even though LeBron's defense has taken a step back in recent years. And Rui's a reasonable facsimile of a two-way player. Their roster has had too many one-way players in the past. Like, Christie's more of a one-way player. Connect's more of a one-way player. Jared Vanderbilt, when we see him, more of a one-way player. Jackson Hayes, a little bit more of a one-way player. And so they're preventing, by Rui taking all these minutes, it's preventing one-way players from being out there, which makes the offense functional while the defense is capable. And I think that's been the big thing for them, is that getting this many minutes out of Rui has really allowed them to kind of insulate. Now, we'll see as the season wears on, as the toll is taken on the veterans' bodies, how things shake out. But right now, it looks great.
Mm-hmm. And one more player to hit on, Jackson Hayes. We talked about Anthony Davis. They were minus 22 in AD's minutes, plus 24 in Jackson Hayes' minutes. They're running a little bit of overlap. I think Hayes has been pretty good, man.
Yeah.
We kind of always, poke fun at him, but again, just having any sort of semblance behind Anthony Davis could go a long way. Now, is this sustainable? Probably not. But yeah, you need to be decent in AD's minutes, and they've been freaking awesome, partly because Jackson Hayes has been so good. Anything else? Or, how much are you buying this? They're not an OKC tier, no way, but have they moved into that second tier? I kind of think they have.
I think there's a good chance that, this is where I'm torn, is that I always, and we talk through this when we're talking about preseason predictions and different things, like separating the difference between regular season likelihood of success and postseason likelihood of success is very different for me for these two. And because the roster is so heavily dependent on LeBron and AD, from a regular season success standpoint, I'm more skeptical of elevating them all the way up to that second tier right now. From a postseason success standpoint, what I've seen so far when they're all healthy, this looks great. And this looks like it fits and it operates well. It's games 1, 2, and 3 instead of games 87, 88, 89 for these guys. We'll see how this looks when the wear and tear, takes on some veteran players. But right now, yeah, right now they look like a team that if you put them in a series right now with Denver, I'd pick the Lakers. You put them in a series right now with Minnesota, I'd be torn. You put so right now, if you put them in a series, I'd agree with that. But over the course of the regular season, I still have my concerns about how this roster, which is vulnerable to depth issues, will get their way through the regular season.
Yeah, I think they're in there, as you mentioned, but Golden State's kind of creeped up in there. Most of the teams who we thought were going to be, pretty good. I thought besides the Kings and the Nuggets, I guess we could talk about too. We should talk about the Nuggets in a little bit, not in the show sheet, but they're last in offense, in 2 games, which is a good transition. A big reason why they're last is OKC. They have been as great as Boston has been. I don't think it's particularly close. Who's been more impressive? OKC number 1 in defense, 92.2 defensive rating, 67.9 in half court. Just outrageously playing against teams who can score. The Hawks, the Bulls have been scoring a little bit, and then obviously went to the Nuggets. I mean, this team is just good, man. I feel like is like 65 wins doable? I mean, I'm so OKC pilled here, as I always have been. But how much are we kind of buying this? Like, could they, like, I think 60 is like a low end outcome now. On the hot take or not. What have you been seeing from the Thunder so far?
They're just dominant defensively, in a way that's honestly scary, because they don't even have Isaiah Hartenstein right now, and so they're putting an awful heavy load on Chet Holmgren through the first 3 games. He's averaged just under 33 minutes per game. Chet's been incredible. We talked through how we had like kind of an underweight position in points-based leagues and best ball and stuff on Chet, and we're baking in growth, and it didn't matter. If this is the Chet, this is like way more growth than we could have baked in.
Mm-hmm.
He's outrageous. Thankfully, we were still really high on him in rotisserie formats and whatnot, but he's been incredible early on to start the season. And if he takes the this was the thing that I was kind of saying about Wemby and Chet last year, where I was saying early in the season I thought Chet deserved to be Rookie of the Year, and I thought he would win Rookie of the Year because I thought he was more impactful to winning. Chet wasn't like immediately impactful to winning, and yes, it helps to have the big structure like built around you that's like healthy compared to Wemby, which just didn't have that. But I think this year you're going to see even like bigger growth on Chet's side, because he's already contributing to winning in so many ways. It's just expanding his volume. Whereas Wemby, it's like, now I need to figure out the better ways to contribute to winning while also expanding my volume. And I think Wemby's going to be a better player than Chet, but I think Chet arguably could be the better player right now. And I think that's what I was saying last year as well. And so they're just, if he's this monster that he's been the first 3 games, they are really, really unique, because now you're talking about like what Boston has gotten out of Kristaps Porzingis in terms of floor spacing, in terms of his ability to attack mismatches size-wise, kind of in the post and different things like that. OKC now has that, with Chet being very aggressive off the catch in dribbling and then making plays, not only finishing for himself, but setting up other teammates as well. And now you've got like 3 points offensively with Chet, J-Dub, Shea, that you can rotate through, and then just rotate these defenders around that will just hound, or shooters or specific skill sets around. It's very, very impressive. And yes, they're playing some, Denver is struggling early on a little bit offensively, but I think OKC has been super, super impressive. And this team is so deep. They have so many assets at their disposal. It's just, this is what the beginning of a dynasty looks like, is all I can say.
Yeah, like you said, we were expecting like J-Dub to be like the clear number 2 potential most improved player. I don't know, man. Like it might be Chet. Like Chet might just be better than J-Dub right now. He's been that good defensively. The interior scoring, getting in the basket at will, half his shots been at the rim. little bit of transition. The roll man, the 2-man game with him and SGA has been so good. So yeah, Chet's been, and then for FanDuel scoring, he's freaking fourth.
Yeah.
In only 32.6 minutes per game. So like he's just absolutely smashing. Partly matchups for sure. He just played absolutely hair on fire good in the Denver game, but I mean we're gonna see people light up the Hawks
Yeah.
and the Bulls. So did get a little bit matchup aided there, but he's been in marvelous. SGA is just, I mean, the guy is gonna be. He's my MVP pick. Got him at 8-1. You know, when they made that trade, I feel really good about that overall. So not even really much to say there. But these pieces too, man. I mean, like we saw, Andrew Wiggins was really good. Aaron Wiggins, I meant to say, was really good in that second game too. So he's been just playing great. Isaiah Joe's been very good. Obviously, Caruso Dort been quite effective. I mean, this team just has depth in so many different ways. They're going to be so hard to beat, man. Like I don't know what like if you I don't know what the line is right now, but if they almost feel like a lock to be number one, which is insane to say when we haven't even got a full week of the season yet.
Yeah. It feels, and this is kind of where I wanted to take this, was every season we kind of feel like we're wading through who the true title contenders are, and we get through like a list, and with the CBA requirements the way that they've been the last few years, kind of thinning out the talent level and spreading it out a little bit, it feels like the list has kind of grown. This year right now, it feels like a list of two to me. It feels
Mm-hmm.
like we're on a collision course for Boston and Oklahoma City. And that's not to, I don't mean that to take away from the other teams that could potentially knock these teams off. At one point last year, we got to that conclusion with Boston and Denver gets knocked
Mm-hmm.
off by a Minnesota team that played very, very well in that series, right? And the Minnesota isn't even the team that kind of moves forward. So there's obviously a lot of season left, and there's a lot of things that can change. But in terms of the rosters, the way that they look, and then the way that we're seeing the individual players' growth with Chet Holmgren, with Jason Tatum, this is what it looks like to me. It looks like we're heading pretty clearly to Boston OKC, which I think would be an epic finals
Mm-hmm.
because of the way the two teams potentially match up with one another.
Mm-hmm.
But we're 3 games in. So a lot of things can happen. A lot of injuries will always take a hold of the season and challenge things. But I do feel like Boston and Oklahoma City, with the way that they're playing right now, deserve to be in tiers of their own when we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about title contenders right now.
Yeah. What is it with Boston that's impressed you the most? I mean, they didn't like. I mean, Detroit hung in there.
Yeah,
I feel like Detroit does that every time against Boston. I remember like a
they do.
Saturday a couple years ago. They always somehow hang around when they're big dogs. Detroit's been pretty decent as an aside, but I mean they just beat the pants off the Knicks. We saw them; they should have broke the record for 3-point shooting. I mean, this Jason Tatum looks so good. I believe
Yeah.
he's the most efficient jump shooter in the NBA among the 35 guys ish with 20 shots or whatever it is. He's been so good. Derek White's great. Peyton Pritchard's been freaking killing it. So yeah, I mean, this is what we knew though. Like we didn't. I talked about things we didn't learn on Thursday, and I was like, yeah, Boston's really good. So hardly a surprise. Definitely, we'll see what happens. I like we said with the OKC, and it's still true. Like I'm almost concerned they're too good for fantasy. Like they're gonna I could see them putting a pretty big gap. Maybe Cleveland put some pressure on them, but or somebody else too. But like, are
Yeah,
they too
for
good
playoff
like from a fantasy perspective?
for playoff related leagues, it would be a concern. But the thing is that they're playing, the way that they're playing is with pace and with 3-point volume, that they're able to get there in somewhat limited minutes, right? So far, they have no starter averaging over 33 minutes a game. 32.7 is the highest for Jason Tatum, or excuse me, for Jaylen Brown. They also have no starter shooting below 43.5% from three right now. That's outrageous. Their worst 3-point shooter in this very small sample so far has been Derek White at 43.5%. Jaylen Brown's at 46%, Tatum's at 48.5%, Drew's at 60%, and Horford's at 57% from three. I mean, it's just been bombs away. But the thing that I think that I've seen, Tatum's, a lot of his threes have been, the step back self creation variety. But a lot of the threes that they're getting everybody else are from kind of what we said last year during the playoff run that really elevated Boston to a new level, which was relentless attacking of the paint to create the threes. That they're getting into the paint, they're breaking you down to then get ball movement and create the threes, and it's been really pretty to watch. And when they commit to playing that way, offensively, I just don't know how you slow them down unless you have point of attack defenders that can really disrupt their ability to get to the paint. That's why I think OKC is so interesting.
Mhm.
But they're playing very unselfish team basketball right now, and they're just shooting the lights out, and they look great defensively. I think they've been fine, but I also think that they know that they're another level defensively as a team when they have Kristaps Porzingis. It is a
Mhm.
different thing when they have Kristaps Porzingis rim protection back there instead of Al Horford or Luke Cornett or Xavier Tillman, whoever is playing the anchor of that defense in those moments. And so I think the defense has not been as great as we'd hope, but the offense is just nuclear to a point that it doesn't matter. And are they going to keep shooting 44% as a team from three? Probably not. I don't think so.
Mhm.
But I mean, they are creating a lot of very good looks for very good shooters, and they are so committed to the math bit of this thing. They're just so
Mhm.
committed to get 45 to 53s up a night, and it's really impressive to watch. I mean, they're averaging 51.3 threes per game right now. It's crazy.
Mhm. Yeah. And cleaning the glass will filter out the garbage time. So we saw them hoist away 13 straight misses and against the Knicks when they missed everything to go for the record. So if you filter out the garbage time, cleaning the glass has them at 50.8% from three. And then coincidentally, their shot volume is 58% of shots are threes. So shot out 50.8%. And then, yeah, filtering out the garbage time, cleaning the glass has their offensive rating at 140.6. I
Come
mean,
on,
it's just
come on.
insane. So I don't know, man. Like they have to cool off, but this
Yeah,
team's just too good, man. They're too good. So yeah, I mean, I'm worried. I'm worried. I'm for sure. Like you have a lot of Tatum for
yeah,
best ball because that's what you
yeah,
pick too. I'm a little bit worried about it for sure. But
for
yeah,
sure.
anything. And they're depth, but the problem is too like. Jason Tatum never gets hurt. Derek White's been really, really durable.
Yeah,
JB's been mostly pretty healthy too. Horford, as much as he's old, he's been pretty healthy considering his age. Drew did have some bad stuff, but it was mostly like unlucky stuff. So, they're pretty insulated. But Pritchard is really going to be key, who's also been extremely durable.
and I mean the way that they're playing early in the season, though, you look at these minutes
Mhm.
per game, and I don't think anybody would be upset with what we've gotten from Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Derek White to
Mhm.
start the season. Drew, you'd be a little bit disappointed in, but I honestly think Drew was like the most predictable to maybe have minutes managed during the course of the season. But
Mhm.
Tatum's at 32.3, Jaylen Brown's at 32.7. Like if they can fire off this volume in the 32 minutes that they play, I think it's good for everything. Now playoff time, if you're playing like weekly lock situations, it might be difficult. You might miss a game
Mhm.
here or there from these guys, but these guys like to play, and I think Missoula is a guy that likes to keep
Mhm.
people in rhythm. I don't think they like to rest guys. I think just the way, if you look at the way they handle things, they really only kind of rest guys when they feel like they absolutely have to towards the end of the season, or with guys like Al Horford that they're like on a
Mhm.
constant maintenance plan. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but would say definitely better in season-long rotisserie formats, better in daily transactional formats where the guy's out, you can get a replacement game from him. It's a little bit scarier in top-heavy prize pools at the end of the season where it's like weekly components, which is certainly the best ball stuff that we compete in.
Yep, for sure. So yeah, I feel pretty good about them overall. Let's talk about a bit of a positive surprise and a bit of a negative surprise. After I really talked up the Bucks, we'll get to them in a second here. But the Clippers, they go back to back in Denver, in San Francisco, and they pull out two pretty nice wins. Golden State put the pressure on them late last night, but Norm again, man, Norm in the clutch has been really good. Harden's been incredible, and then Ivica Zubats, man. I mean, I said that. I literally said Harden, Zubats, pow on one of the spaces, and that's looking quite good. But yeah, shout out to Terrence Mann's giving them good minutes. Amir Coffey's played pretty well off the bench too. Derek Jones Jr.'s had some pretty impactful shots as well here. So yeah, Sam and I were ready to bury the Clippers on Thursday, and now they come out with two huge wins on the road. And when they had rest disadvantage, it wasn't back to back for either guy. So
Yep.
yeah, thoughts on these two impressive Clippers wins.
The thing that I really want to talk about the Clippers right now is just defense, man.
Mm-hmm.
They can really, really defend. And I think this is so. We'll can talk about Denver's offensive struggles a little bit in the context of like, what does it mean? And I think about this in the context of like the NFL season as an example. So the first week of the season, the New Orleans Saints go up and put up like 50 on the Carolina Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
Second week of the season, they go up and put up like 45 on Dallas. And we're like, oh my God, the Saints offense. Like what it ended
Could
up
be after
meaning,
president.
what it ended up meaning was more so Carolina and Dallas's defense were very, very susceptible, as opposed to New Orleans has this super powered offense that we should look at. And I think that might be some of what we'll end up analyzing with Denver as well, although there are legitimate concerns with Denver with their shot profile. But LAC, they are basically saying Harden, Powell, Zubats is enough offensively for us to be average offensively, and we're going to try to hound you defensively. And they're putting just so many good defenders out there, Terrence Mann, Chris Dunn, Derek Jones Jr., and they're competing in that way. And I think it's been really impressive early in the season, the intensity that they've played with, especially, going on that back-to-back against Golden State. That's not an easy spot against a Golden State team that's been playing great offense through the first 2 games of the season and blowing teams out left and right. They really, really made things more challenging for Golden State. Obviously, they benefited from Steph Curry, turning his ankle in the game and missing time. But I thought they competed really well on that end, and I think they're going to. They've got a bunch of guys that really want to compete on that end. And then offensively, I think this is a little bit of, a statement from James Harden that, hey, I'm not done just yet. Is he going to be as efficient as he was in his heyday? No. That's definitely not going to happen at age 35, and we're seeing that happen. I think he's shooting 37% from the field, something like that. But he's able to handle volume in a way that does matter. It matters that he can handle and initiate this many offensive possessions because they need him to, because they're very shorthanded in terms of guys who can initiate the offense. So again, without Kawhi, we're on a house of cards here, because if Harden went down offensively, I just don't think they can generate scores. But look at how helpful James Harden, even though his efficiency has been hurt, look at how helpful he's making Zubats' efficiency right now. And they are just masters of the pick and roll. They're putting everybody in hell with their pick and roll. And Zubats is becoming a better short roll passer as well, in opening up stuff for teammates. And they're getting a lot of clean looks from 3. That's in part why Norm Powell is shooting the ball so well from 3 to start the season. So I think this is a house of cards in terms of it all depends on James Harden being able to maintain this level of volume, which is 37 to 38 minutes a night, usage rates in the upper 30s, 40%. And I don't think he can do that. So I think the offense is going to take a hit over time, but they will defend. They will really compete. And I saw Steve Jones tweeting about this. They will compete on that end of the floor. And that's the part that I've been really impressed with. And I kind of love that. I love when you see a team that was built around 2 superstars and 2 or 3, depending on your timeline, with Paul George and Kawhi and James Harden, reestablishing itself as, hey, we might not be able to have the same level of offense that we had before because we don't have the same level of talent that we had on that end, but we're just going to get a bunch of dogs in here. We're going to fight like hell on the defensive end. And I think that's what they've been doing, and it's been really impressive to start the season for me.
Yeah, they've been just locking in half court, playing pretty well. And then just with going on offense, so Harden's first in touch time, not surprising. Third in drives, and then he still has, I think, he's 4th or 5th in potential assists. But one thing that's interesting, and one thing that has been a bit of a trend for the Clippers, is how they get catch and shoot stuff. That's not been there. They're last in catch and shoot attempts. It's because, as you said, they're just jamming Harden, Zoo pick and roll, and then Norm second side scoring stuff as well. And then, as you mentioned, the short roll stuff. That so there was a play last night against the Warriors. They hit Zoo on a short roll, and I think Kuminga was the low man, and he was so scared of the guy in the corner. Zoo just got straight to the bucket for a dunk, and I was like, oh man. A, Kuminga, bro. B, oh god,
know your personnel.
Zoo is just so. Zoo is just. We got to talk more about Zoo. There was when we first did the rankings for Underdog, we had him projected 80th, and at the time Underdog had him 140th. Yeah, and we were like, what the hell? Is this right for us? It turns out, yes, it was. Zoo, and we talked about this all offseason. They have no depth. It's hashtag Goat Life Kai Jones behind him. They still don't have Mo Bamba back out there. And again, with Harden's a pick and roll heavy guard, and this big man can produce, especially with Harden isn't going to have the tippy top usage there. So yeah, it's Zoo season. A guy that's extremely durable. So how much are we?
Yeah, that's going to be tested though. That's going to be tested though. We can't. I don't think he can be that durable at 36 minutes a night, which is what he's at right now. He was that durable at like 25, 26 minutes a night. So that's going to be tested in a big way. That's the challenge for the Clippers right now. Is this whole thing offensively really relies on these two guys that we are running into the ground right now. We'll see how they're able to hold up over the course of the season. I think that'll be a big part. But right now it's all working because they have those guys fully healthy. I question if it will be able to hold. If you were in on like Clippers seasonal unders and stuff, I'm not super concerned by the start to this season. Because I think the offense is kind of on a, it's on a cliff's edge. They really need Harden and Zubats to be holding up this amount of weight for the offense to work in a big way. Because as you said, I don't think they're going to generate as many corner three catch and shoot stuff because I don't think there's as much to help off of. Now maybe Zoo earns all that credit and they start packing the paint and making Derrick Jones Jr. and Terrence Mann hit corner threes. But I don't think there's a lot of offensive versatility to this team. So what's working now is great, but I think I'm skeptical of to what degree it continues to work going forward.
And then, I mean, Harden had a freaking back cut dunk last night too. That was just like, I was like, what the hell am I watching here? So yeah, he's just been too good. And one player I wanted to shout out, Chris Dunn. He's been great, man. With the on-ball defense, with adding some pace to their offense. The defense had 4 steals yesterday. I mean, of course, Chris Dunn is going to thrive with Ty Lue. So, did want to shout him out as well. And yeah, Mirkoff's been really good. Chris Dunn. It's kind of weird how I was a big Chris Dunn guy. He went absolutely ham his first summer league, and he just never had a shot to go around. And apparently, it seems just to get a punt off shooting here. So, anything you want to add on Chris Dunn? Then and how sustainable? We were watching this game, and Norm was really quiet in the second quarter. I was sweating a fantasy match. I was like, oh god, I need to get to 10 points, and then he just goes off in the second half. Can Norm be this kind of 20s ish kind of a scorer? And anything you want to add on Chris Dunn?
On Dunn, I'll start with. I just love the story of the career arc of guys who have a lot of expectations on them come in and maybe they don't live up to the expectations right away. And then it looks like they're just going to be afterthoughts in the NBA, but then they carve out something for themselves. I love those stories. I just think it's great. And Chris Dunn in 2020, 2021, he barely played. Atlanta and Portland just didn't view him as a priority. Catches on at the end of 2022, 2023 with Utah, and then plays well last season. And now this is his age 30 season, and Chris Dunn's still hanging around the NBA. He's going to end up playing 10 years in the league after a guy that looked like it was curtains. And so I love that story. He's figuring out where he fits in. On Norm, the opportunities are certainly going to be there. I think if you are a season-long bot, if you've drafted Norm in season-long, especially in rotisserie formats, I really think this is a sell-high window for Norm Powell because the category production is still going to be challenging, and at some point the efficiency is going to take a turn simply because the looks that he's going to get as defenses adjust are going to be more and more challenging. And especially if defenses start to take away Harden and Zoo, or try to take away or squeeze in on Harden and Zoo, that helps Norm right now. But long term, if anything happened to Harden or Zoo and Norm is asked to fill that role, the volume is still going to be there, but the efficiency is probably taking a hit. So we're big Norm Powell fans, loved him in best ball, thought he was way underpriced in most formats. I do think it's a little bit of a sell high window for season-long players on Norm Powell right now.
Yeah, I mean, he just went completely off against the Nuggets, and that's just not going to happen consistently as well. And should know, as I mentioned, his second quarter minutes got cut a little bit because he's just kind of one-dimensional as a player too. Let's change gears to a bit of a letdown. And man, my Thursday take of saying, are the Bucks for real? Well, not quite. They had one of the 2 really bad losses. I think Chicago was on a back-to-back. Maybe not, but
they were.
Yeah. Yep, and then so and then they lose to the freaking Nets. I talked about it. I was like, oh my god, their first game, their transition defense was great. Well, that went away. They got completely smoked in transition by the Bulls, who are running. Bulls are first in pace, by the way. Sticky preseason stat there. So I don't know, man. They just look old again. I feel like that's a concern. Their depth is being tested a little bit as teams kind of really ran on them and kind of out-youthed them with the way the Nets and the Bulls kind of play. The Bulls aren't even that young either. But, thoughts on just, like I said, I just think they looked a little bit older here. But Dame's been solid. Giannis has been fine. Brook's been pretty good defensively, but what have you been seeing from the Bucks in these last two embarrassing losses?
I think some of the depth issues that we thought they might have addressed in the season, in the offseason, with the acquisitions of Gary Trent Jr. and DeLon Wright and Torian Prince, I think those are still better options than what they had before. But I think defensively, we're seeing that continuity does help teams early in the season. And this is a team that is rotating new pieces in and around what was supposed to be continuity of Giannis, Dame, Brook, or Giannis, Dame, Portis, right? Brook and Portis not overlapping as much. So those three. And I think you're seeing the defense isn't right now. Hopefully that will improve. I think there's a little bit of a challenge with they're at their best offensively with Giannis in transition and playing fast, but they're at their worst defensively when they're playing fast. So there's this balance of like, how do we play fast offensively but slow things down defensively? And then if we get into half court situations, without kind of a foul parade and getting Giannis to the free throw line a bunch, how do we like really succeed there? They're also not shooting the ball well. Dame shot 32% from three to start the season. I think that's impacting things. When you don't shoot the ball well, you're more vulnerable to getting out in transition. But if you asked, like, what are the components of the two teams that they just lost to in terms of Chicago and Brooklyn, it's sort of like youngish athleticism playing fast. And that's a concern for a team that, from a regular season standpoint, we knew things slow down in the playoffs, but we saw them get eliminated in the playoffs last year by young, athletic team that likes to play fast. Granted, they had terrible injuries with Giannis and Dame. But I think those are the concerns. It's just like, while they've addressed some of their depth concerns, are they going to be good enough at limiting the easy stuff? And are they going to keep playing down to their competition? I think like they reacted so quickly last year with Adrian Griffin. Like, the sample with Doc Rivers hasn't been encouraging either. They can't react quickly because they can't just keep buying out coaches out of these deals. So like, you're stuck with Doc Rivers this year. I don't think the returns with Doc have been very good on the defensive side of things. So his answer offensively has just been like, let's play all our main guys like way too much, and then they wore down in the playoffs. So I'm more optimistic than what they've shown so far, but I do think there's some chinks in the armor here.
Yeah, we like them a lot for like matchups because we used to attack them with their on-ball defense. They gave up 28 points in pick and roll to the freaking Nets last night, so that's a concern. And actually, just a random stat: OKC pick and roll handler points allowed 4 per game. Just insane defense from OKC. But I don't know. That was like I talked about Gary Trent. We both thought it was an awesome signing. I don't know, maybe because he's a little bit banged up, but yeah, we'll see. I think they're still kind of in that tier. I think they'll kind of, they won't be in the play-in. I feel pretty good about that. Any other, kind of big picture sweeping takes on kind of where they fit in the Eastern Conference hierarchy?
No, not too much there. I will say, they need better offense from Gary Trent Jr. He shot 37% from three, but 36% overall. He's only taking threes, basically averaging 10 points a game in the first 3 games. That's not enough for them. They need a third scorer, really, after Giannis and Dame, and he's got to be that guy. He's got to be up around 14, 15, 16 for them, while Chris Middleton's out, right? And then the big thing is, like, once they get Chris Middleton back, like, a lot of pieces fall into place a little bit better. But like, when are we going to get Chris Middleton back?
Yep.
But for all these Eastern Conference teams, as you alluded to, though, the bottom, there's no competition for the bottom. So it's just like, use the regular season to find your footing. And I think we're going to see the same thing with Philadelphia, right? Where they get a nice win in Indiana yesterday, but they're 1-2 to start the season. And it's just like, if you're in the West, you'd have legit concerns because you're battling for every spot. But in the East, like, there's a floor to this. You're not falling below 8, most likely with the way things are going.
Yeah, for sure. So speaking of the West and the team that's struggling, it's not in the show sheet, but we got to talk about Denver. Yeah. Last in offense. Like, yes, you played OKC. Yes, we talked about the Clippers being good, but being freaking last, like when the Washington Wizards are ahead of you offensively, when the Wizards schedule hasn't been that easy either. They played the freaking Celtics. the big thing is how much is KCP missing. I think that's important to note. Christian Brown's actually played pretty well. The bench has been a big problem. The Westbrook impact hasn't been there. Joker had a huge game in a loss. So yeah, what's the level of concern on this 0-2 start for the Nuggets?
I would say, 0 to 10 level of concern. I put it like a 5.5, 6. I think it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's meaningful, but I don't think it's like full blown red
Mm-hmm.
siren alert situation. It is bad when Jokic is shooting 53% from three and you're
Mm-hmm.
dead last in offense. That's not good. But Michael Porter Jr. right now is shooting 18,
Mm-hmm.
19% from three, 30% overall. Aaron Gordon shooting 36% overall, 20% from three. Russell Westbrook shooting 11% overall. Um, Westbrook, I was really like optimistic on his fitting in with the offense. I'm concerned that like the way he's trying to fit in is a bunch of threes, and that's not the
Mm-hmm.
way that I thought he was going to fit in. I thought he was going to fit in with like back cuts and like moving off ball and Jokic finding him, but they're staggering him away from Jokic a little bit more than I wanted, and like trying to have him and Murray create enough offense in the second unit for them to be able to like keep things afloat while Jokic is off the floor. That's the big problem to me is second unit
Mm-hmm.
offense. I don't know how they're going to generate good second unit offense without Jamal carrying a massive, massive load. And
Mm-hmm.
Jamal's been okay to start the season, not terrible, not great, certainly not good. But the weight that they're putting on him, 37 and a half minutes per game in
Mm-hmm.
the first two games, and basically all the usage in the second unit, go create everything, you and Russ, that doesn't look sustainable at all to me. So we really need Michael Porter Jr. We really need Julian Strother to take steps forward. And I would like to see also the rotations mix and match a little bit more.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Russ more with Jokic. I'd like to see Jamal and Michael Porter Jr. more together. I think you can run better
Mm-hmm.
offense and have more floor spacing that way. The second unit just has no floor spacing whatsoever when
Yeah.
it's basically Jamal out there and Strother, but then Saric, Westbrook, Watson. There's just no real spacing. Everything's getting scrunched up, and then defensively, that second unit's struggling because Sharge is getting real hunted in pick and roll stuff,
Yeah.
and it's not good. So the second unit is the big issue for Denver. It's been the big issue for 3 years now. I don't think there's an easy solution like there was last year when they had KCP and they had that added depth, and it was like, okay, Aaron Gordon's the second unit center, and we can play
Mm-hmm.
through this a little bit more. I don't think they have that solution this year because the depth of the roster is just challenged. So these are definitely concerning things, but I think they're being amplified by the two opponents that they played to start the season.
Yeah, for sure. Jamal Murray being guarded by the top three guys who've guarded him: Alex Caruso, Lou Dort, and Terrence Mann. Like that's not
Yeah.
easy. And then they are. I don't know about the Michael Porter Jr. stagger second unit stuff. Just from like a creation standpoint, I think you kind of have to, as you mentioned, the spacing stuff.
Yeah.
Like it don't look good, man. So I don't know. We'll see how long that change if that changes. They better. I mean, you get Jamal Murray homecoming game today against the Raptors. I just think they're like Malone just be like, all right, Joker, just go win this game. Like go score 50. They
I think
better.
they tried that last game.
Yeah, try the last game and lost. Yeah. So they better beat Toronto, man. Or like you said, my level of concern would probably be like a 4. But if they lose today, it's like a 9. Like they better
Yeah.
win this game.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, they do they miss. I mean, Brown's been good, man. That's not the problem. It's the shooting and just like Jamal doesn't have the punch, the high usage, the creation hasn't really been there really since the preseason. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I will change my tune if they lose today. But if they win today, I'll feel a little bit better about it. Anything else you want to mention on them or any other teams you wanted to maybe just hit quickly? We could just kind of get out of here.
No, I think that's good. I think good, pod to kind of recap the opening of the season and things that I've been feeling kind of the most emphatic about and talking through. A lot more Western Conference notes than Eastern Conference notes today. I know at times we'll kind of break down one pod East, one pod West. That wasn't the intention today. It was just to take some notes, but more on the West that's interesting to me early on. But yeah, and if you are enjoying the free content that we're providing and you're interested in checking out the premium content, please go over to establishedrun.com/subscribe-MBA. You'll find more details on all of our product offerings, the in-season DFS package that includes Mike Gallagher's matchups column 3 times a week, live shows 5 times a week with myself and Mike Gallagher. DFS office hours every other week with myself, where I take your questions and walk through screenshots and screen sharing of kind of how to approach things with optimizers, with stats, whatever you're interested in there. Lots of good stuff on the in-season DFS side. And then, of course, on the prop side of things, if you're interested in joining there, we did raise the price. We're trying to kind of manage the subscription level as people are excited about joining us and excited about betting props with us. And we're excited about the strong start we've had, but we want to kind of be, aware of kind of how big we can viably grow this thing. So we did raise the subscription price. Please read that FAQ if you're interested at this point. But we're really proud of the work that we're putting in on there, and we'll continue to keep firing at the books.
Yep. Big slate today. So we'll get out of here on that. Excited for the week ahead. Thursday should be fun, and we'll talk some different teams. There's a lot to talk about. Even the bad teams are fun to talk about, which we do in all our content. So appreciate you guys listening. We'll catch you guys next time.